Hello, this is Mukti Ananda Ma, and I'm here with Ahli'ah. And today I feel compelled to talk about the ninth wave of enlightenment and what that is, and how we are as a world moving into this experienced reality. What the ninth wave is of enlightenment is the enlightenment that you are the world. Not only are you the world, but you are creating the world that you experience and see around you. It is when an individualized expression awakens to the nature of the reality dimension that we are in the time and space of the locale that we call Earth. This occurs when one realizes that they are an identity that is eternal, that they are an individualized expression of the divine. And in that fertile soil, one begins to experientially experience their consciousness in all things and all outward manifestations, not as a projection, but as one's own self. And from this enlightenment, there is great freedom, because you are no longer confined to the world as some sort of box that you're in, a box that you must transcend perhaps with your consciousness, but a box not preferred, never the same. In earlier alignments, you realized that you were not the identity who you thought you were. You were not the body that you identified with. And now you realize you are not the world, or the world is not separate from you. I should say you're not only the individualized identity beyond the body, beyond all identities, but you are also not in a world that is not you. This can only happen as one realizes that who they are is consciousness, is what you can call life. What of itself is all and everything and nothing, no one thing all at once. So that every bit of experience, whether eyes closed, eyes open, is your own consciousness. There is no within, no without, there only is. And in this awareness that you are the world, you will find that you have new desires to experience new worlds. And empowered by earlier enlightenments, you now realize you are the power that creates these worlds at your will. And so your focus expands from an individualized self, a community, changing or creating things in a box of the death world, to an expansive desire field that could only be made manifest, be experienced in a new world. There are many now who are hungry for a new world. That is why we hear all this talk about new earth and splitting. But what I see is that much of the consciousness is still fixated on improving the current earth, transforming it. Of course, there are a few that talk of the light, the great awakening that happens in an instant, or the 3 days of darkness, all the same thing. But what emerges from these flashes is a world that cannot be comprehended from the view of the mortal land. One must rest in the eternal nature, the nature to be any identity one selects in any form. And then from there, the imagination can wander into worlds with different paradigms, with different ways of being in contrast, with different ways of differentiating and different ways of unfolding experiences through change. And that is exciting. And this is the time we are upon. I am here as a light and encourager and a way shower, as I in this world do what I am speaking of as a pioneer, knowing that there are others pioneering and knowing that more and more will join us in a co-creation collaboration of a new earth, a world that is similar in the way that it looks at its core, but very different on what it's operating in. The paradigms and foundational pillars that holds together the world, the new earth experience. I am an oracle to this new earth. Proclaiming what has already been created and is now being perceived by those in the ninth wave of enlightenment, this new earth. And so we will take questions now from Ahli'ah, who is acting as the representative of humanity.
Wonderful. You said 3 days of darkness, and then the flash of light. Are those come together? Is it the 3 days of darkness and then the flash of illumination?
There are many ways that this will be experienced. There's not one way, so I was just merely kind of pointing out all the different ways. Some will experience as a gradual. That's kind of what I am doing in sort of a gradual way, the different unfoldings of perception and revelation happening bit by bit. But there are some that'll experience in a flash of light, some that'll just wake up the next morning and realize they're in a different world. Some will wake up the next morning and not even realize they're in a different world. Some will experience 3 days of darkness. Some will get there through the death experience because that's the only way they're ready for it. But their heart is ready. Their heart, their beingness, their soul is ready to be in the new earth and the paradigms that it'll exist under.
So exciting. It's so exhilarating to be free of limitation and death and suffering and so many things. I wanted to talk about identities. You know, it can feel like maybe challenging sometimes for people to cut that which tethers them here and to essentially jump out of the rut. And in a way, identities have their own grooves, right? Like grooves in a record.
It's only difficult when you have not yet realized that you are the life that animates all identities, your current identity and any other identity you may choose to embody, to live as. It's only difficult when you're still identified completely and wholly with one identity. When you realize that you exist, that you are greater than an identity, that who you are is identityless because it can be any identity. And it becomes much more simple to give up that old identity.
What does that feel like? Because the analogy for me is that if you have infinite options for identities, it's like having not a million restaurants to choose from, but infinite restaurants. What does it feel like, and how does one choose?
One is operating from a sense of knowing. You might call it intuition in this state. It's not a lot of logic and analytics. It's just a simple movement of preference, just a feeling. Let me go there. Let me wander here. This looks interesting. That's what it feels like. Gentle, easy, meandering through identities, through choices, until one seems appealing.
Thank you. When somebody's consciousness is very dense in the 3D, to the point where you could say the less conscious a being is of themselves, the less they exist, for lack of a better analogy. To those that are very stuck in unconsciousness, would there be any advice to helping them break free?
Boy, that was a very convoluted question.
It really is, because it's it's hard to really define.
Just try not to speak spiritual, and just tell,
Okay.
ask it from just a real, like, don't try to make it sound good. Just ask the question.
Well, I have always felt hyper aware, even as a young boy. Yet I myself have
Hyper aware of what?
that I am more than my body, that I am an unlimited being, and yet I myself have experienced the question: do I exist? Is any of this real? It feels rather like a simulation in a lot of ways.
What difference does it make?
Well, in understanding identity, it's the question: who am I?
You
To
already
know
answered the
thyself.
question.
Mm-hmm.
You said I'm aware of being an infinite being.
Right.
So that question's been answered.
Well, I think, if anything, it feels like my identity didn't. This happened so young that my identity didn't
It's
crystallize
yes.
the way typically.
Identities are chosen.
Mm-hmm.
They're chosen.
Mm.
So most will, I won't say most because the children are coming in very different now, but let's just say an identity can be chosen very early. And an identity can be chosen very late in life, if you will.
Mm.
But always they're chosen. They might be chosen accidentally because of an environment, or because of lack of knowledge that you actually choose your identity. It's just not like a stamp put on you.
Mm. I like that. Sorry, you were an accident. I'm moving on now. Yeah, so it's very profound. It's very exhilarating to me, the idea of awakening to a new level of consciousness that one is not aware of at all. And so this lightning flash of illumination, um, this jumping of octaves to a whole new frequency that one does not um, identify from, is not aware of in the same way. It's like jumping from a fishbowl into the ocean or something. I don't know, but it's very exhilarating, what that will be like. And then, of course, the mind wanders. What will that be like in this new?
Well, that's a great place to be. is allowing your consciousness to wander to different chambers of possibility until it finds a chamber that it enjoys for the time being.
And will we be able to go back into the orb of the 3D from this new world?
Yeah, listen, 3D, this is my way of explaining 3D. 3D is just physical experience. So, people talk about 3D, 5D, whatever. We are always able to be in all dimensions, 3D, 5D, 7D, da, 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 at one moment. That's like a skill of attention and awareness. And each dimension offers a different type, if you will, of experience. So 3D is just physical. So really, your experience, the high vibration, low vibration, is all based on who do you perceive yourself to be. And I will add, it's not just who you are now, okay? This is the big leap. It's just not who am I? It's now where am I? So we've gone for ages now with enlightenment and the question, who am I? So this ninth wave of enlightenment is, we've already answered who am I. Now we're answering, where am I? So this is a really radical leap, and an invitation to expand your creative power or ability, whatever word you want to use there, skill, birthright. From who I am now to where am I? And guess what? You get to choose. So we find this very exciting. And I am proclaiming it across the ethers of what we call the internet, hoping that the bell will be heard and shared, the ringing of the bell.
Wow. It's always so powerful. It's a very expansive concept because just as one is an infinite being, one can exist in all of these places. So choosing, I guess that is the key, isn't it?
Yes. Very good. I think we should end it now. It seems like your mind has been blown.
Wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. I love the energy that you bring, Mukti Ananda Ma. It always inspires me and fills me. Thank you so much. Good day.